Joining me now is Mehdi Hasan, an award-winning journalist, the founder and editor-in-chief of the news organization Zeteo. He's the author of Win Every Argument, The Art of Debating, Persuading, and Public Speaking. And, of course, as you all know, he's a longtime colleague and a good friend of mine. Mehdi, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ali. Thank you for having me.
The LA Times billionaire owner, Patrick Soon-Shiong, released a statement a few days ago about that newspaper's decision, or his decision, really, to not endorse anyone. And it read in part, quote, "The editorial board was provided the opportunity to draft a factual analysis of all the positive and negative policies by each candidate during their tenures at the White House and how these policies affected the nation. In this way, with this clear and nonpartisan information side by side, our readers could decide who would be worthy of being president for the next 4 years." Now, Mehdi, he uses the term clear and nonpartisan information, but I think that misses the point that I'm sort of trying to make this morning. It leaves out the context that would be perhaps a normal thing to do in a normal election. Donald Trump does not articulate policies. In fact, he can't make it to the end of a sentence. When you ask him about his tax policies or his child care policies, he rambles on about windmills and boat engines and sharks and nonsense like that.
Yes, you're very right. And that statement you just put up on screen is perhaps the ultimate expression of what some of us have criticized. I know you have, I have over the years, which is the both sidesism of our media. I can't think of a better expression of both sidesism than let's draw up some policies, many of which Trump does not believe in, cannot articulate, you say, and will not implement, and put them side by side and pretend that these are two normal candidates. What frustrates me about this approach from many in the corporate media is this idea that, well, we're journalists, we should stay out of it. And I get that. You should stay out of partisan struggles. Journalists shouldn't be carrying kind of Democrat or Republican signs on their lapels. But the idea that the media does not have a stake in this election, that journalists are just bystanders, passers-by, is ridiculous. If democracy is at stake in this election, as it clearly is, then the media's freedom is at stake, right? The journalists, I've said this for a while, Ali, journalists should have a bias towards small d democracy, not big D Democrat, but small d democracy. We are the fourth estate. We cannot exist outside of a democracy. So if democracy falls, we fall. And Donald Trump is going around saying, I'm going to shut down media organizations. He said it the other day. Let's shut down CBS, take away their license. So when the LA Times does not share that kind of information, that context, as you put it, with its readers, it's a dereliction of journalism. But of course, this isn't journalism. This is the billionaire owner who, by the way, Ali, wanted a job under Donald Trump, sucked up to Trump, had dinner with Trump, tried to get a job as a healthcare czar under Trump. So he's not exactly the neutral person he wants the Times to be.
Mehdi, the reason you are the right person to have this conversation with is that you, for a long time, have not shied away from using terminology and language that is honest, in the same way that journalists can say we don't like hurricanes, we don't like school shootings, we don't like certain things. We can be, in fact, in favor of small d democracy and against large F fascism. There are people in Donald Trump's administration, John Kelly, Mark Milley, they're saying the guy's a fascist, and yet the response continues to be muted. We do not seem to take the word seriously. We do not seem to listen to the people closest to him who say, listen to what your ears tell you. Yeah. The guy says fascist things and he's going to do fascist things.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing it in plain sight. You mentioned kind of Hitler, Mussolini. A lot of the strongmen throughout history, forget Hitler and Mussolini, look at the strongmen today, the Orbans, the Modis, around the world. They kind of hide what they're up to. They don't go out and say it in plain sight. Trump is very unique in that sense, is that he's laying it all out for us. And his people around him, both his supporters and his former supporters, now critics, are all laying it out for us. So we have no excuse to say later on, well, we didn't know, we had no clue. This is not 2016, where this is the guy from Home Alone 2, The Apprentice. We'll give him a chance. It'll be funny. Let's, let him burn it all down. He'll be fine. It's just talk. No, he's been president for 4 years. His people who served with him are telling us he's a fascist. Ali, my first appearance on this network, on MSNBC, was in July 2020, at the height of the George Floyd protest. I was guest hosting Chris Hayes' show, our friend Chris's show, All In. And it was, the Portland protests. Yep. There were, unmarked cars, people in plain clothes, pulling people off the street. And I said, this is fascism. This is what fascism looks like. We need to have a discussion about the F word. Some people said to me, including on the liberal left, you're being hyperbolic. This is not fascism. Stop misusing the word. And here we are, 4 years plus later. I hate to be vindicated in this way, but two generals who served under Trump, who are not liberals, they are conservatives, who are not Democrats, they are Republicans, they're saying, fascist to the core, to quote Mark Milley. And again, Trump says it himself. The LA Times owner says, let's lay out the policies. You don't need to lay out the policies. Just lay out what Donald Trump is saying. Yep. I want to be a dictator. I want to terminate the Constitution. I want to go after my enemies, the vermin, the enemy within. I want to use the National Guard. Oh, and by the way, you know what? If you vote for me now, you never have to vote again in 4 years.
The vermin, the talk about immigrants eating cats and dogs, there are real echoes to there are remarkable echoes to 1931, 1932, 1933 Germany, where reasonable people in Germany in that day, because it was one of the most advanced societies in the world, would have said, it's not going to come undone. This is rhetoric. We enjoy positions in government, in academia, all through society, and then the worst happened. I'm not suggesting we're going to repeat the Holocaust, but people forget how fragile democracy can be. It's pretty sturdy, but you cannot entirely ignore it in the face of someone who says he's going to undo it.
Couple of things there. You're right to make the point about the Holocaust, because when you mention Trump, people say, well, you mentioned fascism. Like, oh, are you saying he's Hitler? Are you saying he's about to open Auschwitz? That's not how it works, right? Fascism doesn't just turn up overnight. On January 21st, he's not going to open concentration camps, but he's made it very clear he's going to put the military on the streets. He's made it very clear he's going to go after the free press. Right. He's made it very clear he's going to use the judiciary to prosecute his political opponents. We know what he's planning to do. We know he loves Orban, and he loves Putin, and he loves these authoritarians who he's going to emulate. So that's very important. And by the way, when you talk about the kind of complacency of our media, Ali, when Adolf Hitler came out of prison in the 1920s, there was a certain newspaper that said, he's a clown, he's done, forget about him. It was called the New York Times. And the New York Times and many in our quote-unquote liberal media have done so much to kind of normalize this guy who is so abnormal. And it is deeply frustrating to watch the media make the same mistakes, large parts of the media, with present company and other exceptions. So much of our media make the same mistakes as 2016. It's insane. It's like 2016 didn't happen. And look, one of the reasons I set up my media company, Zeteo, is because I want to say the G word, genocide, when we talk about Gaza. I want to say the F word, fascism, when we talk about MAGA. I want to say the R word, racism, when we talk about Donald Trump. Too many in our industry still shy away from what is in front of our eyes.
Mehdi, yesterday I got into a cab. Driver recognized me, talked to me about politics, and said to me he's voting for Jill Stein, Muslim guy. And I said, why? And he gave me some sort of a reason. And I outlined the stuff that he was interested in, and I said, well, I think Harris would probably be a better choice for you. And he said, well, America's not ready to elect a woman as president. I said, but you're voting for Jill Stein. And his answer was spite. You've had these conversations with people, particularly some Muslims and Arabs who are frustrated with the Biden administration and, by extension, Kamala Harris. But they're talking about voting for Jill Stein or sitting it out.
And it's understandable, right, Ali? The starting point of any discussion needs to be that we need to understand where people are coming from. I get, for a lot of your viewers, liberal, a lot of white viewers at home might say, what? These Muslims are considering letting Trump win? That's crazy. He's going to bring in a Muslim ban. He's going to do horrible things, which he is, by the way. The thing is, the context is Gaza, right, Ali? As you and I know, the genocide in Gaza is the context to a lot of Muslim and Arab American frustration, anger, resentment, trauma at the Biden-Harris presidency. This is a presidency that has armed and enabled the mass killing of children in Gaza. It goes on even now. As we're speaking, people are being killed in northern Gaza. The UN's top humanitarian official says everyone in northern Gaza is at risk of dying right now, right? And Biden-Harris could stop that. And that is a problem for a lot of Muslim American voters, or Arab American voters, who say to me, we can't vote for the people killing our families in Gaza, who are providing the weaponry to the guy killing our families in Gaza. So that's the starting point. That doesn't mean, therefore, you just go for Donald Trump or Jill Stein. And look, I get it. Again, some people want to build up a third party. Why not? The two-party system is broken. I think we can all agree. Everyone in the country is frustrated with just this narrow choice. So I get that too. But of course, in the swing states, a vote for Jill Stein does help Donald Trump. That's just a fact. Don't shoot the messenger. I mean, Trump himself says, I love Jill Stein, because she takes it all from them. Those are his words, not mine. Yeah. But look, I would say one final point here. Ali, you may have seen some Muslim imams and community leaders, not representing a majority, but a vocal minority, who turned up to endorse Donald Trump this weekend in Michigan. They took photos with him. They were on stage with him. And it was deeply, deeply frustrating to watch, because he should not be able to exploit the anti-war and anti-establishment feelings and the sadness and trauma of the Muslim and Arab American communities in Michigan in this swing state. But he is. See, what you've got to give to Donald Trump credit is the man is an evil genius when it comes to stuff like this. So he's going around pretending he's anti-war, pretending that he won't get America into any wars, pretending he was some kind of peace president. The guy killed Qasem Soleimani, dropped the biggest bomb in Afghanistan. We all know his record, did more drone strikes than Obama. and he's going around pretending he's anti-war, Ali.
Yeah.
And the problem is the Democrats have given him that opportunity. He keeps posting about, oh, well, you're campaigning with Liz Cheney, who's a warmonger, which is kind of true. And that's a problem. I don't understand why the Harris administration have dropped the ball on this. It is so frustrating to see them just completely alienate Arab and Muslim American voters. They just kicked out a Muslim American out of their rally accidentally the other day, then had to apologize. Just so many unforced errors in a place like Michigan. It's absolutely killing me.
Mehdi, we miss you here. Thank you. But great congratulations on the success of Zeteo. Everywhere I go, everybody's talking to me about Mehdi Hasan. And have you seen his stuff? Yes, I see all of it, and I love it. And thank you, my friend. Mehdi Hasan, my old friend. He's the founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief of Zeteo.